Clint, what's up, brother?
How you doing?
Glad to make this work.
It's been, what, a couple of years.
Since we did the last podcast? Has it been? Because it was, I don't think we did this. Did we do one for Survival Edition? I think we did.
Oh, did we?
I believe we did.
Hell, I can't remember.
But I don't remember.
It all blurs together, doesn't it?
It does. It's crazy.
You're doing interviews all the time, doesn't it? Just kind of all
It all just seems
intertwined?
like one long-ass interview. But it's been good, man. I really enjoy it because I get to have conversations with guys like yourself and other team guys and everybody else who's doing something wonderful in the world.
That's awesome. Well, are you still learning?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
With the number of them that come through, or do you start to hear kind of the same thing?
That actually proves to be somewhat of a challenge, is making sure that the people I'm talking with do actually have a unique story, something that isn't just regurgitated as what other people have been doing. But as I've gone, I've really tried to be as curious as possible, and that helps me get those valuable lessons out from people.
Yeah, I'm guessing as an interviewer you start getting better and better to try and extract information that hasn't been heard before.
Well, the issue that I had initially was I in a way wanted to please the person that I was interviewing, so I wouldn't ask tough questions.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't object or throw any sort of red flag against anything they said. And now I'm like, whoa, hold on. Like, you said this. I don't know if everybody believes that, and so...
That's good.
Got guys walking in front of the camera. We knew that would happen.
Yeah, it'll make the video portion of this entertaining.
That's right.
Yeah, somebody knock it over.
How's the new book doing?
It's doing good. I've got to say though, it's there it goes. There's another one.
Yeah. How many before the interview's over? Would you say? I think we've got 3 so far.
For those of you watching, you should start counting. To check your situational awareness on this.
That's right.
Yeah, for a book that has not gotten any national attention yet, it's actually doing really well. And the national side has been lined up several times, but not just me. Many authors are kind of getting hacked by media, right? They focus on impeachment, they'll focus on Iran, and it's very hard to get a little bit of bandwidth when you need it.
Right.
Compared to like the last books, I had all kinds of great national spots to push it. So considering with none of that yet, it's only been out, 2 months?
Right, not very long at all. Do you think it has to do with the type of book it is? Because it's different than your previous, because you have 2 other books, right? 100 Deadly Skills and then 100 Deadly Skills Survival Edition.
Correct, yeah.
So it's obviously The Right Kind of Crazy is a different book.
Yeah, it's a memoir. It still has illustrations in it for all the,
for guys like
crayon eaters.
Right. Well, I'm not a crayon eater, but guys like me nonetheless.
Yeah. But it's just to keep, it's basically you got to do things different. You got to be unique. You've got to have something to offer that's not like all the others. And so, as you and I were discussing, when you've got a lot of SEALs writing books, well, then I had to put illustrations in mine by a DC Marvel illustrator.
Oh, is that right?
To set it apart from
because you had somebody else doing it before.
Right. I had a storyboarder. I had Ted in the first couple of books.
Right. Yep.
And he storyboarded things like Breaking Bad and Walking Dead, and so it's very much more sketch oriented. Where I almost said No Easy Day. What the hell is it? The Right Kind of Crazy.
I was like, whoa, there's so many SEALs writing books that you guys are starting to confuse each other's books.
God, did I write that book? No. The Right Kind of Crazy has a Marvel kind of vibe to it.
Yes.
And Tom is the guy, Tom Mandrake, and I got to give him all the credit. That guy is a master of his craft and really good at what he does. He did Superman versus Batman series for DC. He's got his main bad guy he invented 35 years ago is going to be in the next Harley Quinn movie that's coming out.
Really?
It's the main villain.
Yeah.
I think it's Black Mask, I think, is the villain in that movie. But anyway.
So he did all the illustrations for that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So Right Kind of Crazy, you're reading it, and you're getting the illustrations. And then the third piece to set it apart from all your books is the footnotes.
Okay, yeah.
So you're reading along. And it's almost like thought bubbles down at the bottom, where you're reading
what
something.
Somebody's thinking.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, me.
I like that you put that you left all of the. I think it was the DOD who came in and said you can't say this, you can't say this, right? Is it the DOD who reviews that?
It's you send it to the Pentagon, and that process is completely fucked up. But,
I know.
Yeah, they take your book and then they send it to all the agencies that you've ever served for. Then
and in some cases, agencies you've never even worked with.
Right. Yeah, they sent it to the FBI, which you work with them, when you're in the JSOC world, you end up touching a lot of interagency, right?
Right, sure.
It's kind of part of the deal. But I never got a paycheck from them. So it kind of makes you go like, well, why are you reviewing my shit?
Exactly.
You never paid me. So
exactly.
It's like the only people that should be reviewing the book is the people you truly worked for to
right.
ensure that there isn't any classified. But even though I did a good job, my goal wasn't to tell operations. It was more humanize my time in the military. That's the goal of the book.
What's the reasoning and the thought behind that idea?
Well, as you know, and as most people know, the SEAL brand, if you will, it's got a lot of attention, and there's a certain mystique that comes with that brand.
No doubt.
And I just kind of wanted to point out that, hey, it's not about. We're not all knight in shining armor. We're more like pirates.
right.
I mean, if you had to compare two worlds.
Legalized pirates, right?
Yes.
And it's funny because I talk with people, and I'll let you get back to your thought here. Not to interrupt you, but a lot of people do think that it's these great guys. It's the superhero. All of them are noble, no bad intentions, and I'm like, man, these guys are operating on a line of like right and wrong, life and death. But this is not something I think a lot of people see or even consider.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're used to it. It's one thing I've noticed. I've been out for five years now, and when you get out of that bubble and you start to see, what other team guys are doing and everything, and everyone's doing great, but you hear the mystique constantly. And to me, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be me in this book. And it's truly sinner versus saint. It's SEAL versus husband. It's it has every theme you can think of built into it that I hope resonates and anchors back to the reader in some form or fashion that, we're all human.
Right.
We all fuck up. We make mistakes. And you either learn from them or you don't, like me. I didn't always learn from my mistakes. I just keep on making the same mistake.
Right.
And then you just keep plowing through life. I mean, and so it's not to break anything up that everybody thinks. It's just to shed a little bit of light on the human side to an occupation in my 20 years. And it's all my personal experience. It has nothing to do with any other team guy that's out. My integrity is not always the greatest.
Right.
My moral and ethical compass is not always pointing north. So, and those were my choices. And probably the best way to characterize a lot of the stuff in the book is that, bad decisions make for great stories.
That's true.
Who tells stories about good decisions? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It might be a job you take. That was the best decision I ever made because I'm making a ton of money. Or, I took a left instead of a right and, there was a big accident. That was the best decision I ever made. But when you really think about great stories, it's all based on bad decisions.
Well, and I think the reason it is because nobody resonates with getting everything right. Like if they look at somebody that, and that person, and it's so easy to do on social media, right, to portray the perfect life and all the right lighting and doing all the right things and you flexing just the right way.
Yeah.
So
Cross your arms.
Right.
Cross your arms.
Yeah. I got to do that a lot. So you see these types of individuals and you think, oh, well, what the hell's wrong with me? Like this guy's doing this and I can't get out of bed on time and I can't be a man of my word. So I think the reason we resonate with truth, real stories, mess ups and all, is because we begin to see ourselves in that person, you in this case.
Right. Yeah. It's like, you read it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I lay it out there. I mean, we're talking people, by the time you get done reading this book, you know which way my penis curves. You know what I mean? So, and that wasn't my wife telling that story, by the way, or ex-wife now because of that.
Well, it's interesting you talk about. Well, you said SEAL and husband, right? So, which I think in a lot of ways that those do conflict with each other. Would you agree?
Once again, because guys will be like, what the fuck is he talking about? But, my time in, I was raised by guys that were far more barbarian than I think is permitted these days.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Within the teams even?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot has changed. When I was in, if you're not cheating, you're not trying mentality was said more often than the only easy day is yesterday, right?
Sure.
I mean, now you're not even, BUD/S instructors aren't even allowed to say those words anymore.
Do you think that's well, there's probably two sides to that, right?
There is.
But generally, would you say that's a good thing or not a good thing?
I think the culture is what it is, and it's what sets us apart, right? I mean, when we go hang out with Marines or we go hang out with Army, you notice a distinct difference, right, between us and them. Military bearing. We're not the guys that are going to be blousing our boots or worried about our haircuts.
Right.
And that's kind of where it begins, and that's what sets the culture apart from all the other branches of the military. SEALs tend to do whatever they want. It used to be we're very rogue, very maverick. We don't get hung up on the little things. And I think now, because of a lot of what's been going on, whether it's because of guys like me writing books or because of disciplinary issues or whatever it is, now they're trying to change the culture. And I certainly feel like the culture is very important to how you end up inevitably operating. When you want guys that'll truly go just drop the hammer, it's really that culture that has made it so successful, I think. It's like that culture makes you successful, but it also lends to some of the trouble we get into too, and that's...
But it's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater, It's like I look at it from the outside looking in, and I was in the military, specifically the National Guard, and then the Army during my deployment. But then I look at a guy like you and other guys that I know, and I think, okay, well, these are individuals who aren't entirely civilized like the rest of us.
Yeah, and that's
that's what we need.
Yeah,
like we need individuals who aren't like that, because like you said, you can go drop the hammer, you can do some things that need to be done that most people aren't even comfortable with acknowledging, let alone doing themselves.
Right.
And it's always really interesting to have somebody complain about that who isn't willing to do the same things you are to maintain some of our luxuries that we enjoy. It's kind of like that adage of is it a few good men, where Jack Nicholson is talking.
Oh, you need to stand on the wall. Yeah,
right. Yeah, you need that. Yeah. And then you have other people criticizing that who aren't willing to do it themselves.
There is a little bit of truth to that, because like that movie, it's attorneys that kind of drive a lot of the change, right? If you look at current news, whether it's guys turning on each other or it's team guys getting in trouble in other parts of the world, and we've heard a lot over the last couple of years. It's the attorneys that come in and say, ultimately, it's time to make it official. And I think it's funny because it goes directly back to that movie, because that movie is all about attorneys getting involved in culture. In culture,
right? That's the perfect word for it. Because I know you're friends with Mike Ritland.
Oh yeah.
And where he talks about, I think in the beginning of his podcast, he always asks about your favorite hazing story. And we look at that, and I can't remember what you talked about, but we look at that, and most people think, oh, how could they do that? That's horrible. And yet that's one way for you to become part of the team. It's like you have to prove yourself through, yes, your capability, but also your willingness to toe the line with the rest of the team guys, I imagine.
Without a doubt. It's I break it down pretty simple. There's a correct way to haze first.
No doubt.
You don't want to threaten anybody's life or cause injuries. That's number one. Number two is you're going to do it for two reasons. It's either going to be a corrective measure or for celebration. And so if someone has a safety violation or they're not performing to standard, you haze them.
Right.
And if they're going to get married or it's their birthday or they're a new guy, which is celebration, you're hazing them.
Right.
And I say it out loud all the time. If you went through an entire career and never got hazed, you know what that really means? Nobody gave two shits about you.
Nobody cared about you.
Right.
Right.
You gave them a feeling that you're the guy that's going to go run to the attorney. You're the guy that's going to go run and tell the chain of command. You're the one that's probably going to go and just create drama. So there are plenty of guys who went their entire career and never got hazed. And then sometimes I hope they hear me say that, because then it'll dawn on them that, you know what, you didn't get hazed because people thought something.
Right.
Something was up with you.
Right. Well, I actually think that's another component of the hazing idea, is that you need to find out as a team who's going to be the bitch. Because when it comes down to life and death situation,
right,
you don't want that to be the time finding out who's going to punk out on you.
Right. Yeah. I tell people regularly, and it's in the book, is, I made it loud and clear in the book that, hey, I'm not going to sit here and tell you all about buds. You can go read all the other books about that. But I will tell you this. It's not about doing 100 push-ups in a minute. Mm-hmm. It's not about the 4-mile time swims and the 2-mile ocean swims and this, and that. It's about figuring out which guy is going to just man up and do what needs to be done and not sitting in a corner, crying, shitting himself, whatever it is. That's really what it's about. Of course, you're going to have a level of human performance in order to keep up with the rest of your team, and you never want to be
standard, right?
Yeah, you never want to be the weak link. I mean,
of course.
So that's the physical piece, and obviously the competition that comes with it that extends for the rest of your career, and what keeps the ego in check with all that. And I think the community does a good job is that you always feel like you're the new guy, and as long as you maintain the feeling of being the new guy, then it holistically keeps all of those, who's got the bigger dick moments in check, because there's always somebody smarter, there's always somebody faster, there's always somebody who's going to outdo you, and it's always a good reminder that, yep, I'm the new guy. And even when I, whether I went from coast to coast, where I show up to a new command, you feel like the new guy.
Right.
Yeah.
What is that mentality, like the new guy mentality? If you had to define what that is, what would that look like, or feel like, or behave like?
It's knowing that you're never as good as you think you are.
Yeah.
You show up, and it's also a respect to those who have gone before you. So, it doesn't matter if it's a guy who's retired and is salty and been out forever. That buds class are in order for a reason. And so if mine is, way behind someone else's, then I'm the new guy in that guy's eyes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work for everyone, right? We still got some cocky and arrogant kind of guys that come through. But for the most part, I'd have to say that culture breeds that new guy mentality. Even when I was at the 15-year mark, I was like, I'm still feel like a new guy around certain guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's uncomfortable to be in that position, but that's the only place you can develop and grow.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like you're no longer the new guy, then you feel like you know it all or more than anybody else, and therefore you're closed-minded to learning anything new.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it.
No,
yeah, it does. Yeah. You feel like you're always kind of on eggshells a little bit here and there.
Yeah, like skating a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You're on uneasy territory.
Yeah. And related to exactly what you said, we have another saying. When you start believing what's written in your evals, it's time for you to go, right? And so, because evals are written like superb leader, and they got all this flowery vocabulary and nomenclature that's like, what does that really
even mean?
Gold star performer, and there are guys that start to actually believe what's written on those things,
right?
And those are the guys, and you go, oh yeah, you need to get the fuck out of here.
Do you think that there's some level of, I don't know if it's ego or there's a better word to describe, but it seems to me that guys in your position within the teams would need some sort of ego to go do the things that they do?
Yeah, well, I think it's ego is confidence can transition into ego.
Okay, right,
What
sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
very
definitely.
quickly.
Yes.
Based on how well you take praise, or if you're just one of those guys that looks in the mirror every day, to make sure you look cool, whatever it is. But yeah, I think confidence is certainly necessary, not necessarily an ego.
But how do you have confidence in something, whether it's a mission or some skill set you're working on that you've never done, let alone excelled at?
Well, that goes back to training. Yeah, so you're going to build up that confidence over time. It's very rare that you get thrown into something that you've never actually kind of experienced in one form or fashion, So, you've heard enough SEALs tell you our workups are long.
Right.
They are, every stage of the workout or workup is back to back to back to back. I mean, you're gone, throughout the work up as much as you are deployed.
Right.
So the 6-month deployment is matched to an 18-month workup, where you're traveling the globe, mostly around the United States, and you're basically keeping your skills as good as possible, so that when you go do your 6 months, you're performing at your best.
Right, and this isn't some new situation that you're like, okay, now we turn it on. Like, it's been turned on for 6 months.
You're at that point, you're just itching to use it, right?
Yeah.
I kind of hit that in the book too. When we first went into Iraq, nobody really knew how to use Navy SEALs, but we were there, and it was frustrating for us. And at the end of it all, we're like, hey, the first year or two, it's like, this is the pinnacle, of any soldier's career is war.
Right.
You can't say that for any other career.
No.
It's like
this is the performance.
Yeah, we're hoping for
right.
it. I want to pull my fucking trigger in anger, right? So if you want to pull the trigger, you want to do real world operations, you want all those things, and that's what you've been training for your entire career. So at the beginning, believe it or not, you hear all these great stories, especially Task Force Bruiser and Jocko and all those guys, when it took a while for leadership to finally get to the point where you could have a Jocko. At the beginning, it was people that had no experience, and there was a little bit of fear factor there on what the hell are we doing? Where is special operations role in all this, when the last time it was really, really leveraged was Vietnam, and you didn't have any of that Vietnam experience there. So that first year or two was rough for the SEAL community, because everyone's itching. Everyone wants to put that training. Everyone wants to take that confidence and, drive it into the face of the enemy. But, nobody knew how to really use it. And so it took some time. And then once we figured it out, obviously, once that train left the station, it was barreling down the road of war for, 15, now hell. We're still going. So
that's what's crazy.
Yeah.
The term you used is said pull the trigger in anger. Is that right? Like, is that is that the right term?
Yeah, we just say it. I mean, it's not an emotional thing, but it's kind of it's definitely a term. Just pull the trigger in anger. Maybe it just sounds cool. I don't know.
It definitely sounds cool. I'm just wondering.
Might make for a great tattoo.
Like, how much you really believe it. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think.
Or even better yet is, does it accurately describe what's happening?
No, I think you could probably take that word anger, subtract the definition of emotion out of it, and actually just mean like it's just meaningful, right? You're pulling that trigger for a reason. You're doing it for the greater good.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Just with I don't know, maybe like intensity or like the focus that you have, the purpose, you're fulfilling your purpose, your priority, your mission.
Yeah. Anger just represents the level of violence in it, and pulling a trigger. Yeah.
Which is interesting, because anytime you talk about the word violence, that scares people. Right? Oh, violence. Oh, it shouldn't be violent. I'm like, well, sometimes violence is the correct answer and the correct response. I think the difference comes when you're letting anger control the reaction, potentially violence, versus being trained, being disciplined, having clarity and being focused, and then using violence through those means as opposed to an emotional reaction to something.
Right. Yeah. I am constantly preaching, as you know, violent nomad, and I get questioned all the time, what is that? And I explain it real simple. Violence is usually associated with bad people or bad events. That's it.
Yeah.
No one ever in their mind associates it to a good person using it to get themselves out of a bad situation.
Right.
So violence of action, meaning you are going to commit and you're going to execute and you're going to get out of that situation in a violent manner, because it has a time. Violence has a time requirement almost.
Yeah, it's urgent.
It's now.
Right.
And it has no hesitation in it, and that's key. And it's okay for good people, to be violent. It's not a bad word, but sometimes it's looked at that way. And so I'm trying to desensitize how violent is perceived with Violent Nomad, and kind of saying, hey, this is just good people that get out there and do the right thing in a time of crisis. And usually it's because they have figured out that you have to pull the trigger quick. You've got to get time on your side, because time can become an enemy just as fast as it can be your ally, right?
Sure.
And that's in training. That is ultimately our goal: is how do you get time on your side? Because time equals, options. Obviously, if you have time to make good decisions, then the odds are it's going to increase your odds of survivability or winning that particular fight.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was. Like I was saying, all the interviews kind of blend into one at this point. But somebody was talking about as you're reacting to a situation, when you talk about getting time, for example, back on your side, you're trying to slow everything down so you can pocket more of that time to respond correctly. But if you take a violent encounter, whether that's an active shooter or some other disaster that you're dealing with, that it's going to happen quick and catch you by surprise. You got to try to slow that down a little bit so you can react properly. Am I saying that correctly?
No, you're right on it. There's actually an old Air Force fighter pilot. He came up with the OODA Loop.
Sure.
Right?
What's his name? John.
Boyd.
Boyd.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so Boyd put the OODA together so that you could get inside your adversary's mind at Mach speed. I mean, imagine that.
Yeah.
You're flying towards each other. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck? How do you do that? Right. But even to this day, I've talked about the OODA Loop so much, and when you talk about awareness, situational, you can't do situational awareness for a living and not talk about it, but orientate yourself. Obviously, first you're observing the environment, then orientating yourself based on what your adversary is doing. Then now you can make a decision and act on it, and that's the OODA Loop in short. But it is exactly that, is trying, if I can get inside my adversary's head, know what they're probably going to do next, then I've just put time on my side.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think most people just rush to action.
They do, yeah. And I've been telling people, especially as you brought up active shooter, with these current BuzzFeed videos and Wired and the things I've been doing specific to that, is you don't want to just leverage the mammalian reflex or that fight or flight thing. You want to take a moment, look, listen, and feel to what's going on around you. Trust your eyes, question your ears, especially as it relates to gunfire, and make sure you're not running the wrong direction.
Sure.
Make sure you're not hiding in the wrong place, right? Identifying the dead ends and all of those bad locations is just, if not more important than knowing your routes out of a building.
No doubt.
Right? Know where the closets are, because you're not going to run to one of those.
Right.
Know where the bathrooms are, because you do not want to run to one of those. So
because you're pinning yourself in that hole.
You're putting yourself in a dead end.
Right.
And that's where the term dead end comes from.
Yeah. Good point. I mean, this even works. Yeah, we're talking about active shooter situation, but this even works at the most basic level. The other day, my son had fallen off his bike or something, and he fell off and he scraped his knee, and I could tell he wasn't hurt,
Yeah.
But the way that he responded, you'd think he would have, he would have lost his leg or something. And he's screaming, and I'm like, stop.
Yeah, it's
just
okay.
Stop for a second. Stop crying. Stop screaming. Just stop. So he stops. I'm like, figure out what's going on. He's like, oh, I scraped my knee. I'm like, does it hurt? Yeah. Is it painful? A little. Can you get back on your bike? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then do that. But like, the first reaction doesn't need to be freak out.
Right.
But we need to be conditioned to do that, though, because I think the first response, without being conditioned, is flip out and potentially put yourself in a bad situation.
Correct. You end up in the active shooter situation, you end up inadvertently running towards gunfire, because if everyone who's listening now will know that sound, how it propagates inside, is much different than how it is outside. Gunshots fired indoors becomes omnidirectional. You can't tell exactly where it's coming from, and it's very deceiving. You think it's coming from the right, it's really coming from the left. So what do? You run right in towards the bad guy. And it's really important that you take that moment, and if you can get eyes on, you should. Now, in the situation, the environment, and your own personal capability always dictate what you're going to do.
Sure.
Because people like to sit there and argue about it, and I don't argue about it. It's just the situation, your capability, and the environment make all those decisions for you, whether you like it or not.
Right.
But once again, it's, you hear a gunshot, just know that sometimes it's not going to be in the direction you think it is. That's the big takeaway there.
Well, and I imagine, too, as many senses as you can evolve, the better off. Like, if you're just auditory, you're just hearing something, that alone could deceive you.
Yeah.
But you start getting smell, you start getting sight, you start getting these other senses involved, and the compilation of those senses is what helps you make the correct decision.
Yeah, and that's the goal. You feel, people are like, well, why would you slow down? But it's not, we're not talking minutes.
Yeah.
We're talking seconds.
Right. And you're not walking when you should be running, but you're...
Right.
Right, sure.
Yeah. That mammalian reflex is powerful. You see a herd of people go running by, it is human nature to want to run with them.
Yeah,
You'll have a feeling like, should I go with them?
Right.
But you don't know if they're running in the right direction, and
it's funny
that's the
too,
whole point.
Because that you want to know how this is so ingrained into us. So go to like an airport, all right, and you're going in the parking structure, and you can clearly see that there's 2 lines to go get your ticket to go into the parking structure.
Yeah.
And what line do you take? The one that has 4 cars in it.
Oh yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Oh,
like most people go on the line that already. I'm like, there's an empty lane right there. It's because it's hardwired into you to do what other people are doing. I saw it on the way down here. Toll booths are the same way. 3 lanes. All the cars are in the 1 lane because they're like, well, I guess that's the one because that guy is there, and maybe
everyone
I should
else
just
is
do
there.
that. Right.
You know where I noticed it is this airport is unique in the fact that in the terminal I got off in, there are signs that say baggage and everything and ground transportation this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so you take that arrow, and then on the other side of a like shopping area that you have to cut between, there's another sign that says, you know, ground transportation baggage, and it points you back in the same direction. So you have all these people that are following each other, following the herd, going back and forth, when right there in the center is the stairs that go down.
Right
you just
there.
don't notice it because you're just
it.
following arrows and you're following people because, well, we all got off the plane together. We're all going to go to the same place together. But
it would actually be a funny social experiment if in an airport or a mall or even a place like this, you just had arrows that zigzagged you through but brought you back to the same place to see how many laps people would do before they realized, oh, this isn't right.
I just need to pay attention.
Exactly.
Right, yeah. Don't always follow the herd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you know when to follow the herd and when not to, though?
Well, it depends on what that threat is. I mean, obviously, fire and the smell of fire and, you know, all those, every situation is going to kind of dictate. But when you hear the gunshots, that's where it's specific, right?
Yeah.
You just don't want to go the wrong way without knowing what's there, you know? And so, and it even applied, you know, in Nice when, you know, they decided to go rent a van and rent a big, you know, utility truck and start running people over.
Running people, yep.
You know, at first, you don't know where it's coming from. You just see people piling out of the way, and they don't even see the truck, you know. That tunnel vision and that adrenaline sometimes can blind you. It can deafen you. And that's another reason why you sometimes just got to take a moment and really force yourself to open up your aperture and pay attention to that environment. And obviously, you can't take it all in, you know. When you're just walking down the street and you hear guys talking about situational awareness, and the reality is if you try to pay attention to everything, you'll see nothing.
Sure.
You know, so you've got to narrow it down based on what are the possible threats I could run into while I'm there, and then look for those indicators. It's much easier than just trying to look at everything.
Well, and I imagine, too, is doing that prior to a situation happening, right? So if you walk into an event center like this, or you walk into a mall, or you walk into a restaurant, evaluating those things prior to something going down is going to put you in a much better position than if the first time you consider it is when the gun goes off.
Right. You're training your brain. So I tell people to calibrate it, sensitize it to what you're going to do, you know, and the environments you're in, the routes you're going to take. I mean, it's really simple stuff you hear all the time, but there is a kind of a more of a, you know, systematic way of doing it so that you're not overwhelmed and that you can remember.
Right.
You know,
well, and then you see these guys that are just so paranoid on everything, you know, and it's like they can't even function because they're overly paranoid about the slightest of things that could go wrong. And it's like, okay, well, cool, you're protected to some degree, but are you even living life at this point?
Yeah, no.
Like in fact, I have a friend who got so heavy into the prepping thing that he lost his family, he lost his job, and he just went nuts.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to do a good thing, he just took it too far.
Yeah, I tell people it's not about being paranoid or being a prepper. It's just simple preparedness.
Yeah.
You know, and it goes a long ways. You know, preparedness is a lifestyle. You do have to think about it. You still kind of got to do and carry the right things to be ready for whatever that is. But that's about it. You know? Everything else, I tell it, keep it simple because crisis will complicate the rest. You don't need to have these complicated ways of doing things because once adrenaline starts going, stress, you start running out of time. The simple things is what you're going to leverage.
Yeah.
Right? Gross motor skills versus fine motor skills. You know, if it's a fight, and you don't do it all the time. You're not a person who is, you know, like you're on the mat all the time.
Sure.
Or, you know, you're going to be comfortable maybe trying out some things that require fine motor skills, which all goes to grip and, you know, the things that I always compare. It's not fine motor skills is the Jason Bourne fight scenes in a bathroom stall with pencils and books and everything else, and it goes on for 5 minutes straight.
Right.
What I'm talking about is big macro movements where it's a tackle, it's a grab, it's whatever it takes to, do what needs to be done so that you can then create pain, then create distance, and get away from the threat as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
We're talking 30 seconds or less.
Right. I imagine with the macro like you're talking about here is that's the biggest return for your energy.
It is,
right?
yeah.
Like I even think about a physical altercation. Obviously, you distance yourself, get away from that environment or situation. But if it ever got down to a fight, like I've thought to myself, I got to bring this to the ground, like because I'm not a strike. Like I've never done boxing. I'm not a striking guy, but I have a little bit of wrestling and a little bit of jiu-jitsu. I'm like, hey, my best bet is to take it to the ground and do whatever I can on the ground and then get out of that situation. But you're right, it's those macro skills that are going to be advantageous for you.
And well, it goes back to that saying too, 100, how's it go again? You never want, 100% of the time, you do not want to go to the ground, but 95% of the fights do.
Will go to the ground.
Right, so you got to know what to do. And someone for you, getting strikes under your belt's always a great idea.
No doubt.
Mainly because once you go to the ground, you don't know
you're tangled up. Somebody could be behind you.
You don't know who this guy's buddies are.
Right.
And that's the biggest
problem.
problem.
What that individual has on them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people overlook that. They think, okay, well, I've got jiu-jitsu under my belt. I can handle myself. It's like, well, you can handle yourself if another guy's grabbing you, but if he's got a knife and you're going to arm bar him, all he has to do is grab his knife and stab you.
Put it in your kidneys and
right.
you're done. Yeah.
So, his arm's going to hurt a little while, but you're going to be dead.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful on that stuff.
Yeah, that badass
as well.
triangle's going away here in a second.
Exactly.
Yeah, as soon as I start stabbing you in the flank.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a dangerous kind of world, and you take your risk going to the ground, especially these days, whether it's weapons or there's more people in the crowd than you think, which usually was usually the case when SEALs go to a bar, right? Mm. One guy decides to mess with one other guy. He has no idea that there's 15 of his buddies standing there too.
Right.
Because we're not hanging around in a herd. Everyone's talking to
mingling,
women.
Doing your thing. Yeah. But that's actually good. That's self-regulatory as well.
Yeah.
Because you think to yourself, like, what's the saying is the reason things are so difficult is because we can't drink from the skulls of our enemy or whatever anymore, right? Something like that. And that's the thing is, like, man, if you're in a room full like this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many guns. I mean, obviously there's the displays, but how many people are carrying in here, right? Like a large percentage of them. And that is self-regulatory. It's like, I'm not going to mess with that guy because he can defend himself.
Yeah. Well, so I'm a concealed carry guy, and I think in terms of what you were just bringing up with grappling, it's like, I go, if I did go to the ground, and what if he got a hold of my gun off of me?
That's true too.
Because there's, as there's aspects of being on the ground that you can't always control, and your waistline is vulnerable.
Sure.
And so I'm always like, I don't want to go to the ground, even though I'm the one with all the superior,
that's a good point.
Weapons and this and that. You got all this stuff, and then it's the ultimate equalizer when you've got all this stuff on you, but you also know that someone can take it away from you.
That's a good point. I guess you change. You open my eye to that perspective of like, well, I mean, obviously the first thing is just disengage altogether.
Yeah.
Right.
De-escalate
There's too much ego in that. It's like, I don't need to fight this guy. I don't need to be in an altercation with this individual. Like road rage, I see that all the time. It's like, you guys are both driving to work to support your family.
Right.
And now you're going to get out of the car and you're going to pull a gun on somebody or try to run somebody off the road and jeopardize not only your job but your livelihood and your ability to take care of your family over this guy cut you off.
Right.
Ridiculous. Now, look, I'm not immune to that. It's a maturity thing for sure. Well, not only that, but it's a humility thing too, because you've been humbled and kicked in the balls enough by life that you realize this is not one of the things I'm willing to get kicked in the balls over.
Yeah. And for me, it was like you have kids.
Yes.
Right? Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, I need to be a good example. That's number one.
Yep.
And that's hard enough to do sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
Number two is like you don't want to do anything stupid that can take that gift away from you, like prison, right?
Right.
I mean, these days it's real easy to get in trouble. Everyone wants to call the cops. Everyone wants to get an attorney. So
yeah, we live in an interesting time. Well, let me go back to the book, because one of the things that we talked about prior to hitting record on the podcast is you were talking about the fact that every SEAL writes a book, it seems like, right? Like, yeah, that's what you do.
It's
right?
funny.
You go through your career, you get some experience under your belt, and then you retire, and then you write a book. That's what you do.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Well,
because usually, I mean, it used to be like, you don't write a book, right?
Yeah.
You don't share your experience.
Well, I think it's still taboo, right? I was one of those guys who sat in the squadron space. Fox News is playing across the military, and then you've got some SEAL talking head, and that's either pushing a book, pushing his business. He's an expert on whatever it is, right?
Sure.
We all sat there. We shake our heads like, that motherfucker.
Really?
Sellout, cocksucker, whatever you can throw at the screen. You're saying it, right? and you think to yourself, I will never be like that. Well, I was that guy, you know. But then as you get closer and closer to retirement, and then as you start to kind of put yourself out there on, hey, what are the next things I'm going to do in life? It's funny how many things present themselves that you would typically say no to, that you end up going, well, all right, why not?
Right.
You know? So, a lot of guys will never admit it, but the price tag on some of that stuff is alluring.
Who's
going to say no to, like, money?
Right.
That, and I tried to do it, with 100 Deli Skills in a very respectful way where, hey, all right, I'll do it. I'm not putting a trident on the front of the book, which none of my books have tridents on it. And then I was like, the inside will contain information that could potentially, help people.
Right.
And so, but what was that doing? I was just reasoning with myself. I'm still a SEAL writing a book, but, it's going to help people.
Well, at least you can be honest about it,
yeah.
Right? Like, if you can't laugh at yourself and mock yourself a little bit, come on, you gotta have some fun with it.
But here's the reality that a lot of SEALs and other guys don't see until they get out. New York and LA make a metric fuck ton off of us, and none of them are SEALs, right? They make a lot of money off of us. And so you start to see that, then you're like, you know what? SEALs should be making money off the brand. That's the commercial industry has certainly made plenty.
Sure.
And so that's number one. SEALs that listen to this, 10 years from now, whatever, it's okay that you make money off of who you are and what you did. And it's not a lot of money, I'll tell you that, but it's something. The second piece to books is that it's the best marketing platform on the planet that you don't have to pay for. I mean, 100 Deli Skills is in a dozen languages. It's all around the globe. And it puts you out there. For me, I'm a subject matter expert in a lot of this crisis management stuff, and so you get a lot of stuff that benefits from that.
Right, sure.
It's how do you market yourself effectively when you've got everybody marketing themselves these days?
Right.
A book is just one piece of the pie. It's almost like if you don't, then you're really not exploiting all of those forms of art. Like it's like having an IG account, an Instagram account, and nothing else.
Right.
You got to go. You got to
do everything else.
Yeah, you have to do everything else.
Right.
And when you go back in history of business, it used to be just word of mouth and a business card. Now, I mean, we hand out business cards, but how often do you really? I mean, you can look each other up in a heartbeat now.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me for a business card today. I'm like, a what? Excuse me? Can I have a business card?
Yeah, it's come a long ways, but now books are a business card.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange. You put a lot of work into these things. It doesn't equate to a ton of money, but it's not a bad. It's if you're going to go pay $7,000 a month for a billboard, or you're going to get paid to write a book, which one are you going to pick?
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Well, and how effective is a billboard, anyways? I mean, you might get some eyes on, but you're not going to get the engagement that you would if somebody reads or listens to your book and gets inside of your mind through those pages of the book. Right.
A book is global, without a doubt. And especially with Amazon, now anybody in any country can buy your book, and it's pretty amazing. So it's better than a business card. It's better than a billboard. It's just the best way to go for people that are first, if you're just trying to get your name out there.
Right. Well, the other thing, too, is, you say, for example, like, I'm trying to justify it by saying that I help people, but truly, like, that is what you're doing. Like,
it ends up.
You have this experience, and if people gain something from the experience, and they learn something new, and it serves them in their life, then I think not only should you, I think you almost have an obligation to share your experience, whether it's in the SEALs or experience with whatever facet of life. Like, that's the point. You can help other people.
Yeah. No, when you put an idea together, and what we're talking about is a book, and then you put it out to the world, you're really doing that because, well, I got paid.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until the testimonials come in.
Sure.
Where I had a freelance journalist in Colombia who used some of the skills out of 100 Deadly Skills, and it saved her life. And then you get a couple of business guys that travel abroad, go to a meeting, and that meeting was had some suspect eavesdropping capabilities built into it, and they're like, yeah, if it wasn't for your book, the awareness that it gave me to that kind of stuff, I would have never known to actually kind of look for it.
Right.
So the testimonials is what transitions, an idea that was for money into, now it's like, now I'm back to doing things for the greater good again.
Sure.
Those testimonials are everything.
Well, the other thing too, though, is they're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who can't wrap their heads around that. They think if they're making good money, then they're not being a helpful human being, or that if they want to be helpful, then they can't make any money.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we live in a very cool society, capitalistic society, that says you can help a ton of people and make really good money doing it.
Yeah.
And they're not at odds with each other.
Right, and it's okay.
It's okay. It's good because then you can buy things and have experiences and put your kids through college and pay off your debt and all these other things that we do with money.
Yeah,
right?
I think you're right. I think people are kind of scared to admit to the money piece of all of it. I'm not. I mean, you get paid for your time and your skills and what you bring to the table. And for me, the books are all about just a creative outlet. Sometimes it's therapy, right? I mean, to put the skills out there, or to do a memoir, each one of them I've learned so much about myself, and I love to be creative. I'm not the greatest storyteller in the world, but I kind of enjoy that piece of it. The illustrations, I'm obviously not an illustrator, but going through the process with some of the best illustrators is cool. That creative process is fun. But yeah, it's not till later, like I said, when people tell you how much they like the books, how much it's helped them, that you start to get that greater feeling of like, oh, okay, thank God this is actually working.
Right.
Because you don't know if it's going to work or not.
You don't know if it's going to help or if anybody's going to listen other than your mom or whatever else.
I tell people all the time, when you join the military, most of the time, they'll never admit to it, it's for economic reasons. They don't have anything else better going on in their life. Yeah, they're patriotic. They are. I'm not going to take it away from them. But the true sense of patriotism doesn't kick in until you're really in it, until you go out, you go on a deployment, and you're like, holy shit, the USS Cole has a big fucking hole in it right now. And it's something that comes over you like, I am part of something bigger. I am going to help with whatever this is that we face. And all of a sudden, the fact that you went in for a job or paycheck, the health insurance, whatever it is that you went in for suddenly goes away. Now you have that greater sense of patriotism. You had it. I would never take that away from anybody that serves, but you really didn't have it.
It's realized at that point.
Until you face it. And it's kind of the same with business or any of these projects. You kind of build it. You're building it for yourself. You're building it because I like doing this. And then once you get it out there, then all of a sudden that feeling comes back like, oh, cool. Yeah, it is something that is bigger than just a paycheck. Right. Yeah.
It is. It's a more like advanced motive. Right?
Yeah.
But the other motive isn't bad.
No.
And so I think that's where people get hung up is they think, oh, well, for example, I have guys who every once in a while they'll reach out and say, they'll calculate. This is what they'll do. They'll calculate how much money I make on a monthly basis based on how much they know it costs to join the Iron Council or some other program that I have available.
Oh, boy.
And then they'll multiply it by the number of members I have. And they're like, well, you make this much money a month and you say you're just trying to help people. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to help people and make a living.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do both.
You're building a future.
And they get upset about that. I'm like, let me ask you, where do you go to work? Oh, I go to work at X, Y, and Z. Oh, just out of the goodness of your heart? Oh no, I get paid for it. Exactly.
Right.
Like you got to get paid. It's just an exchange of value is all it is.
Yeah. And I think people, it's real easy to do math like what you're talking about. But they really don't understand how that math equates at the end of the year.
Right, and what expenses you have, and how long you worked without getting paid or losing money.
Yeah,
I lost money for a couple of years doing this thing.
Oh, I bet.
Right,
and then you're putting money in, and maybe you accumulate debt. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's for me, it's the IRS. Right, you end up giving a third of your money away every year
or
anyway.
more.
Yeah.
So we're at an interesting time. And I wanted to talk about this because I think I saw it on Instagram that you had made a post that it was roughly 3 years ago that you were at Trump's inauguration.
Yeah.
Were you doing security detail there? Was your firm doing security detail?
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. My company, Escape the Wolf, his primary job is crisis management for Fortune 500s and stuff. But every now and then we get hit up for very unique stuff that I always go, heck yeah, especially for an inauguration. You know, it's a really cool event to go to if you've never been. It should be a bucket list item for every American. I don't care if it's, I don't care what party you should go to one.
Yeah.
Because it's really an interesting ceremony that that's been going on for quite some time now.
Right.
And there's only so many presidents, and there's only been so many. So yeah, I highly recommend it to everyone. But for us, it was really cool. It was actually, I was here 3 years ago, SHOT Show, got a call from the Secret Service. I'm paraphrasing, but basically they said, the incoming president thinks that Secret Service, is supposed to be used for all of his friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so
there's some extra stuff.
So it was like this kind of unofficial tasking of like, let's just find some other folks that can do it, and we'll get him read into how all this works once he's the president, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
We got to put a Band-Aid on this now.
Yeah. And so it was pretty cool. I mean, we threw together a PSD team, and what's that? That's your personal security detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Or protection security detail. I've heard that acronym or those initials be defined in several different ways. But basically, it's bodyguards for an event. And then when I asked, hey, what's the threat? And they were like, protesters.
Sure. Yeah.
That was the big piece. And
was there a lot of that?
Oh yeah.
I bet.
Yeah. One of the videos it says it. You can hear it. Like if you listen to that video, turn the audio up. And they're reading to him, you'll hear all the chanting.
Yeah.
Right? Then when he's, right hand's ready, done with the Bible and all that part, then you hear all the booing, right? It's half the crowd's cheering, half the crowd's booing.
That's insane to me.
And then I filmed a woman. I was in it. I got really lucky. I mean, they put us just behind the Marine Corps band, but in front of the press corps.
I saw the video that you had posted. I'm like, he's close to
we got put really
the podium
close.
Or stage or whatever it is right there.
Trump's buddies were right there. Yeah, so that's who we were covering down on. And
so you were just scanning for threats, just kind of checking it out. Like, what is it that you were doing? Is that primarily it?
Yeah, we kind of put in a more of a low vis front where there were seats and stuff that were kind of designated for security, but you look like you were just a guest kind of thing.
Sure,
and so, we worked it hand in hand with the Secret Service, and it was very impromptu, fast. Like I said, I was here, and then before you know it, I'm on a plane head to D.C.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. And word is we'll be helping out with the next one, so it'll be good.
And so is that because you developed a relationship with Secret Service, and you have the security clearances at this point that it makes it easier, or?
The security clearances really don't play a role. It's more about relationships.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of friends that have now moved into senior levels within the Secret Service and over at the agencies. Just relationships you develop in the military. They've, definitely. I've carried them on into the civilian life, and in that case, it was a pretty cool deal, Yeah.
What a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, again, regardless of political party, just an opportunity to be part of that. I remember several years ago, my wife and I went to New York, and we were at our hotel, and we came down, we were walking around. We walk around the corner, and we see where George Washington was inaugurated, just right there.
Yeah.
And that's it, just right on those steps, to have that cool part of history and to actually see the process. I've never been to an inauguration, but I think that would be really cool.
Like I said, I highly recommend it. And for me, Escape the Wolf does policy and workforce training and all this stuff that's, not as sexy.
The boring stuff.
That was like, okay, this is time to kind of get something sexy under our belt that we hadn't done in a while.
Yeah.
I've had opportunities to do some other cool stuff, all the red teaming, which is us playing adversary and breaking into Fortune 500 and defense contracting companies. And
when you do that, are you as the red team, you just, well, let me stop right there. Let me back up. For those who don't know what red teaming is, explain that, and then I'll work into some of my questions.
The simple definition is you're role-playing an adversarial group or person against a organization based on what they perceive as their most likely threat, right? So Companies that deal in a lot of intellectual property, then the IT side of the house is the vulnerability because nobody, trades secrets.
Right.
So we
trying
will
to steal that information. Sure.
Right, and that's when we'll pretend to be a foreign intel threat. So we're bringing to bear technology against them physically, but we're also attacking them on the red hat side of things, where we're running algorithms through black boxes that look like China, look like Russia, using the same bots against their systems and truly testing them holistically, both the physical infrastructure and their network. But some companies will be like, hey, we just want to see if anybody can actually break in.
Right.
And so that's more of just red hat. That's just being an adversarial criminal force, and trying to get in any means necessary. Our primary one is social engineering. You are basically letting the workforce open the door for you in a myriad of ways. And it can be something as simple as dressing up like your favorite Subway kind of, or your favorite sandwich shop that's going to deliver a dozen sandwiches.
Right.
And you just go, yeah, I'm heading these, I'm taking, you basically bum rush the lobby. You
walk
mumble,
in like you own the place.
You mumble something, and then you just head on upstairs to the CEO's office.
Right. I actually did that. Oh, I did that twice in the last 2 days.
Yeah.
So
to get in here, right?
I didn't have my tag initially, and the guy that was getting me my tag, he wasn't here. He's like, yeah, I'll be there in an hour. I'm like, well, I'm here now. I mean, I waited by the exit doors, and when somebody opened the exit doors, I walked in there because there's no guards there.
Right. There you go.
And then there's a booth here that I set my bag down, and I said, hey, I'm going to set my bag in here. They're like, yeah, that's good. If you need it, just let us know. And a couple hours later, I came in. I walked past 7 different people, and nobody, and it wasn't the people I knew. I walked into the thing, I grabbed the bag, I walked straight out, and nobody said a thing.
And that's the human factor. So I always say it, you can have the best fence lines and firewalls in the world, but the humans that work for you will fuck you every time.
Yes.
And that is ultimately what happens to these big corporations. They spend a lot of money on infrastructure, whether it's on the cyber side or the physical.
Right.
And they're good to go there. It's always the people within that's your biggest threat.
When you're doing this stuff, do the people that you're trying to infiltrate, whatever, do they know that you're doing that, or is it?
No, because you'll get false positives on security that way.
Right, that makes sense. Because then they'll start setting things up. Looking.
Oh yeah. Right. They'll all of a sudden be the best security force ever. Yeah. And so what we do is the only thing we give them is the 30 days.
So you give them a window in which you can operate.
And then we're usually working only with 1 or 2 people in the corporation. They're not allowed to tell anybody. And then we get to pick our 96-hour window in that 30 days.
Okay.
So even if they know, the whole company can know, okay, within the next 30 days, we're going to be tested. 2 weeks into it,
they're onto their thing.
They still got bad habits, and they take advantage of the bad habits.
Is it pretty easy then to infiltrate a lot of this stuff?
It can be.
Yeah.
I tell a story in the book you read where it was an incredible amount of discipline on both the guard force, the workforce, the physical infrastructure of what's basically a national asset, and we had to get really creative to get in that one. And sometimes it's the cleaning crew that comes at 9 o'clock at night and they're there till 2 o'clock in the morning. All the systems will be disarmed, and we know that, all right, we pull surveillance, we figure out the cleaning crew's time, then we're going to follow one of the cleaning crews home. They're going to inevitably leave their badge in the cup holder. We break into the car, we take the badge. Now we have access to the whole building anytime we want.
Interesting.
Right? So we get really creative on the tactic side, just so that it basically wakes the company up that, hey, even though you've got you got a cleaning crew coming in every night, they may be your vulnerability.
Sure. That's a cool job.
It's not bad. Yeah, they're fun.
Cool gig.
It's it definitely kind of balances out sometimes the boring OSHA compliant stuff. Yeah.
How did you determine, because you were talking about that story, how did you determine what you put into the book? Because, I know how many experiences you have and how much information you could put in there. Like, how did you distill the lessons that you were actually going to apply in the stories you were going to tell?
Yeah, that's a tough one. When I got done writing everything down and taking all the notes that I knew I wanted to, just a data dump, it was 800 pages, right?
Whew.
Obviously, you can't publish that.
Right.
So then you go through and you start going, all right, it's not necessarily the best stories. It's the stories that weave together the best.
Sure.
Right? And that's the goal. And that
tell the most compelling story or book as opposed to individual stories.
Right.
Sure.
And what gives an overall theme, I knew my goal was, hey, I'm not perfect, neither are you, but it doesn't mean that you still can't do great things.
Right.
Right? Or, hey, you might be the skinny guy. So was I. I was still able to get through buds. Or, hey, maybe you cheated on your wife. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you're a great guy. But just because someone does that doesn't necessarily mean they're just bad.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
I mean, so I kind of just knew that I wanted to hit certain pieces that I hope would relate to the person who reads it. And frankly, I also thought in my mind I wanted more women to read this book than men. And that's hence the reason why I had a female ghostwriter. And I really leveraged her a lot to make sure that, hey, how can we make this book really hit that demographic of your typical military reader is a dude.
Right, of course.
Yeah. So this book, when you read it, you'll see it's like, or you already read it, but women can relate to this. Women can get inside I consider myself the average guy. If you want to get inside the average guy's head, read the book.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what dictated your theming, and the message you want people to walk away with decides how you weave those stories together and the stories you tell.
Right.
You got to work from the end state backwards.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, good, man.
Yeah.
We talked about a lot.
Yeah.
We could keep talking.
I'm probably going to miss my plane. I don't know.
Oh, are you leaving this afternoon?
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Okay, yeah. Now I'm doing 2 days. I figure I can get as much as, you can't get it all.
No.
But I can get as much as I want to handle in a 2-day period. I think we've got 6 or 7 podcasts lined out. And,
wow. Well, this is the place to do it.
This is the place, man.
Makes it easy on everybody.
It makes it easy. It's convenient. Everybody's here. We've got the audio equipment and the video stuff, and it makes so much sense. It's easy to do.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Let me ask you a couple of questions, and I'll let you get to your flight. The first one, you've answered this twice now. What does it mean to be a man?
What it means to be a man. I can tell you from military life to the civilian world, having the ability to evolve is what it means to be a man. Don't be so stuck in your ways. Don't be hard-headed. Be flexible, not just with, how you think about things. Be flexible with even, the tactics you use with people each day. Just open up a little bit, open that mind, have the ability to evolve.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Right on.
Is it new? Yeah, you don't know. You're like, fuck.
Who knows?
I got to catalog all this shit someday.
It was good. Actually, I've had a lot of people ask that. They said, would you put together a book that has the answer to, I think it's 280 or so times that I've asked that question now?
Yeah.
And that's actually a pretty good idea.
I think statistics with that question would be kind of cool.
What category they fall into? Or?
Right. Like, put all the answers down, and then how many of those, which answer is given the most?
That is a good idea. Or like keywords that are used the most often.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Evolve, courage.
Yeah. Protect is on there quite a bit. Yeah. Provide is on there quite a bit. Yeah. Well, how do we connect with you, man?
Yeah, so you can go to clintemerson.com. It's got the whole ecosystem of stuff I got going on. Most of it falls in the lane of crisis management. If you don't like that kind of thing, then you don't have to go.
Then
of
do
course,
something else.
Yeah, all books are on Amazon, at your local Barnes & Noble, or where you buy books. And then, of course, Violent Nomad gear and apparel and all that good EDC type stuff is at violentnomad.com. And that's it.
Excellent. We'll sync it all up. Go get a copy of the book. I've read it. It's in my bag. I actually meant to have it out, and I got distracted. But
it's okay.
It's in the bag. It's in there.
Yeah.
Great book, new perspective, different than the other books, which is cool.
Oh, yeah.
I like that, and I think you guys will enjoy it. Clint, I appreciate you, man. It's been good to get to know you over the past several years. I've enjoyed our friendship and, of course, the lessons that you've taught.
Hey, and likewise. Like I said, man, I'm proud of you. You've come a long ways. I think we started in this world,
roughly the same
year.
Time. Yeah.
When I was getting out, you were starting this, and it's cool to see people grow. And I always support success.
Thank you,
doubt,
brother.
Man.
Appreciate
awesome.
it.
Good
Appreciate
job.
it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You bet.